Okay, well, we're back again with some more on bankruptcy, and I'm going to share a few important points with you. One of the things that we want to talk about this time is the kind of structure of the courts in case we get into a situation where a case needs to be litigated. So basically what we have down at the lowest level is the bankruptcy court. It's kind of like the equivalent of the trial court. And the thing on this is that bankruptcy judges used to be called bankruptcy magistrates. They weren't really a judge, they were like an assistant to the judge. But later on that legislation was changed, and so a new system was set up where they're actually a court. And so then what happens is there's a system of appeals where some issues can be taken to the district court. So like in Fort Wayne, for example, where I practiced, or Indianapolis, where I also practiced, there is a district court right downtown in Fort Wayne. It's in where the old post office used to be. Basically, this is kind of the way the structure works. So on one floor is the bankruptcy court, on another floor is the district court. So if there's something where somebody feels like the bankruptcy judge didn't treat them right, which there was a lot of things in Fort Wayne like that, then it would be appealed to the district court, which is a federal judge, an actual federal judge with a lifetime appointment. Another possibility on some things is that it could be appealed to an appellate panel, which is a group of appellate judge experts for certain other issues. The final place for any appeal, of course, is the U.S. Supreme Court. So that's just kind of the way that it's structured. Now, 90% of the cases are handled clear down at this level in the trustee and what we call the 341 meeting, okay? And what ends up happening, every debtor, without fail, has to attend some kind of a 341, what we call 341 meeting. And in that particular meeting, the trustee asks questions, the attorney for the debtor asks questions, and any of the creditors can show up and ask questions. The problem with that is sometimes if the creditors are just laymen, for example, and they're trying to represent themselves, they don't even know what a relevant question is. So oftentimes they'll be in there saying, well, how do I get my money? Where do I get my money? Well, there's really, that's not even an appropriate question, Kind of questions you really want to ask are, how does your income stack up to your expenses? You've worked for years and made this much money. Where has it all gone? What's the kind of a summary of why you find yourself in bankruptcy? A lot of times it's going to be a story about health care, some kind of a sad tale, loss of a job, death of a family member, things like that put them in an unexpected hardship. So most of your cases, this is like 90%. So, the small number then that goes on from here, are divided between, that 10% is divided between these two areas, and then it just goes on up. A very small percentage end up in the Supreme Court. Very small, okay? So this is kind of the way it breaks down. So generally speaking, all this stuff gets resolved at the lowest level, but there are situations sometimes where it is necessary to kind of move up the chain. We want to talk a little bit about a difference between what we call core and non-core proceedings. Core and non-core, okay, proceedings, okay? And so we'll explain a little bit about what we mean by these two, and we'll get started on that now. What we have here in a core proceeding is usually things that arise out of, this relates to like motions by creditors, or it can even be an adversary proceeding, and this can be brought by creditors. It can be brought by the trustee. There can be a number of different things. It relates to something to do with one or more provision of the bankruptcy code. So it relates to the bankruptcy. Remember I said B/R bankruptcy code, okay? So these core proceedings, core, relate to the code, okay? So that's important, all right? Now, non-core proceedings, they are related to, but they do not relate to the code, okay? So non-core are related, but not directly related to the code, okay? And basically, the bankruptcy proceedings, but it's not an issue of code, okay? And we're going to try to look at some examples of that, okay? What it basically is saying is that there would be an issue whether or not there was a bankruptcy, okay? So, in other words, you'd still have a lawsuit against this person whether or not there was a bankruptcy. There would still be a problem whether or not there was a bankruptcy. And that is part of what ends up going through these bankruptcy appeals processes. So basically then, another thing we want to hit on is the different levels. In other words, if you want to look at the code, look at 28 U.S.C. 157, and this is for core proceedings, okay? 28, and this is United States Code 157, okay? So that's important. And so then you want to look at B, subsection B, okay? And then the next thing is when we're looking at non-core, just to try to get a better understanding of this, then we want to look at 28 U.S.C. 157, and this is C, okay? So, in other words, you look at the different parts of it, okay? And then another thing to keep in mind is a thing called abstention. And, this can be kind of tricky right here. But what it is under is 28 U.S.C. 1334. And this again is C. Now, important thing to keep in mind here when we're trying to look at this, nowadays everything's electronic, okay? But when you're looking at something in a book, then what you would see, a volume number is 28, okay? So this will be on the back of the book. So you got a book here, and it'll have the number 28 on the book, okay? And then each book has chapters, okay? So let's make it look kind of like a book, like this, okay? So inside the book, the section is actually one of the chapters in the book. So it'd be 157, and then it starts going down like this. So here's A, B, C, D, E, like that, okay? So that's how you look at books. So if you're looking at Northeast Code, Northeast Cases, Northeast 2nd, there's a volume number. That's on the spine of the book. It's 137, 252, 999, whatever it is. And then inside, there's actually a page number that corresponds to a case that you want to look at. So if you look at 28 Northeast 2nd, 222, 222 is a page number inside the book number, okay? So that's important. And so these are all different parts of books. Now there's something specific I want to touch on here, and that is chapter 12, which is what we call family farmer. And the reason that this is important is they have certain special situations, like a chapter 13 for a wage earner plan has limitations on how much money can be involved, how much debt and so forth. But as you know, a family farmer, for example, a combine could be $500,000, you know. And so the debt ratio in farms is much higher, even though it's just a family farm, okay? So that's why the chapter 12 is to try to make it more simple than a chapter 11, more similar to a chapter 13, but yet with larger limits on debt and so forth, because the farmer just by its nature is going to have a larger limit on debt. And you know, family farms, it can be kind of up and down, and so there's times where just like General Motors or whatever, you miscalculate how things are going to work out and so forth, so that you do run into problems. Now, one last thing I want to say about this real quickly is that this also is applicable to a family fishing, business. So, and here again, it's got to be a family. You know, it's not, chicken of the sea tuna or something like that. It's a family fishing operation, like a family farm, smaller, but yet, a lot of times just on a boat that they have to go out and get fish is going to be, way high up, maybe $1 million, just for the basic things that they need in order to run that. So a lot of times the limits in chapter 13 just won't work for family fishermen. So that's why they made them part of chapter 12. So that's another consideration is, you don't want to be stuck with the requirements for chapter 11, but at the same time, you don't really qualify for chapter 13. Thus, they created a chapter 12 for family farmers and family fishermen. One of the things too is that in chapter 12, just like chapter 13, the plan is that there's going to be some kind of reorganization. So in other words, debts are going to be paid something, and the debtor will be given an opportunity for a fresh start, but they don't have to necessarily liquidate everything. So if you've got a farm that's been in your family for over 100 years, you don't want to be forced into a situation where you have to sell it. You may need to, but what it does is at least give you the flexibility to try to work out a payment plan with all your creditors. So it's unlike a chapter 7 in the standpoint that chapter 7, we call it a liquidation, and so a lot of farmers, they don't want to give up, so the liquidation doesn't apply to them either. So it has aspects of chapter 11, it has aspects of chapter 13. It has the higher debt limits of chapter 11, and it has the workout or wage earner plan type approach out of chapter 13. So it's kind of a combination. It's the opposite of a chapter 7, but it's kind of a hybrid between chapter 11 and chapter 13. Okay, well, basically, those are the main comments I wanted to make for this session. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you can always contact me. I do have 2 email addresses. You can contact me at either one. Of course, my school address or robdaywalt@me.com. I'll try to answer my email as quickly as possible. I'm trying to be really good at that and answer in the same day. So I'll try to get back with you and let you know what you need to know as soon as possible. Thanks for watching. Good luck on this session. Thank you. Bye.